Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by my all-knowing co-host, and we're here today for what is the first episode of a new show called Yeah, That Happened,
Oh, and a slide whistle. Always a great way to start a video.
in which we talk about gaming news that has, yeah, happened, but we didn't really stop to make a video about it.
Yeah.
Um, this is probably never going to come back ever again, and for good reason, considering how it's been branded and introduced. But Tucker, before we get into I'm going to call this episode the Ides of Fours because
Oh, okay.
there's a lot of fours we're going to talk about today. But
Sure.
before we do that, if you want to talk to us about all this horse shit, be sure to join our Discord link as usual. Top of the description. We've been getting some new members recently, but these people join and never ever speak. So
Messed
don't be
up,
like
man.
them.
No.
Join and then actually talk to us.
Be a good,
There's
set a
an,
good example.
there's a new role in the server. It's called Backlog Bantha.
Mm-hmm.
Give me
Mm-hmm.
accolades in the comment section for that one. But while you're down in the comment section, leave a comment. I guess like the video, ring the bell, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I said one of those twice. Fuck it, Tucker.
It's
We're
all good
here
enough.
to recap gaming news. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we usually make specific topic videos when it comes down to some gigantic gaming news. Like we
yeah.
talked about Microsoft's couple big acquisitions, and Sony's acquisition of Bungie, or if
All
it's
right.
Nintendo related, frankly. But recently, some third party stuff has been happening. Quite a few big soft announcements. Where obviously it's not E3 yet. There hasn't been a state of play. There hasn't been fucking EA plays with himself. I don't know what it's called.
Yes.
But we've got a lot of games to talk about that have been announced,
Yeah.
announced into the ether. And Aiden, which one do you want to start with?
I'm actually gonna start with one that isn't even on the list because
Oh,
we've got a list we're gonna work off of. But I figure if we're talking about things that happened recently, let's talk about the state of play that just happened. And by just happened, I mean like 4 weeks ago.
yeah,
But just because you're a man who enjoys posterity's sake,
sure.
I couldn't forget this presentation because there was in classic BLB fashion, it was just eyeballs being tugged for an indiscriminate period of time.
Yeah.
Almost got Final Fantasy Tactics, almost got Dino Crisis, actually got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there's like literally fucking 14 individual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games coming across 2 retail packages in the next couple months. So state of play, I think.
I mean, I assume what you're trying to posit is that State of Play not exactly
Yes.
the greatest format that we have for
No.
announcing games, and not that it's a bad format because guess what?
No.
It's a Nintendo Direct. But guess what? Sony really does not know how to balance their announcements in these things. There has been such a clear divide in my mind. If Sony announces a State of Play, my expectations are zero. If they announce
Yes.
something that is not called State of Play and is PlayStation Presents, PlayStation
Yeah.
Presentation, PS5 Presentation, bing! I'll perk up a little bit because maybe that's where Wolverine, where Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, all these big
KOTOR
games are going to be
remake.
announced. That. But State of Play is just a format that has never gone anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
one or two sparse announcements over the last like 2.5 years that they've been doing this has been basically it. And frankly, I'm kind of disappointed with Sony because I do think that they have the power and the prowess to coerce people into announcing their games at this style of presentation that would make it a lot more substantial. But
Yes.
I'm not excited for the next State of Play. Like just by principle, because they have proven that their big announcement is going to be dinosaur game with
Exoplanet,
guns.
how could you forget?
That game, which already has just disappeared into the ether of nothingness.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a larger conversation called the state of play
Oh
because
yeah,
it's clever and I've got more to say. But in the short term, it was a bad state of play. The reason I brought it up in the first place is because I saw this. I don't even know this is news, but I was on my Xbox on just perusing Game Pass as I do here and there. I noticed that Trek to Yomi coming to
mm,
Game Pass, a game I really want to play. It's like a side-scrolling Kurosawa inspired action game
sure.
from Devolver Digital. Looks very cool. I'm excited to try that. There probably won't be a review for it on the channel, so don't look forward to it.
Yeah. What's next?
Next, I'm gonna insert one other thing in here that's not on the docket. Then we're gonna be back on the docket proper.
Doesn't you didn't even need to bring that up. They don't know what the docket is.
That's true, but really this is for you. I make this
Oh,
video for
okay,
you.
sure, of course, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. BLB exists solely for my own
Yes.
edification.
One Mr. Hassan Karaman, you
Oh
might know
Jesus.
him as the gentleman behind PlayStation 5's exclusive real-time experience application Abandoned, has been making quite the
Behind abandoned PlayStation.
he has been making quite the press tour recently, and I watched. He's been doing interviews across various outlets. I watched the one he did for Sacred Symbols Plus with Colin Moriarty, in
Mm.
which Colin, a very good interviewer, was not forceful, but had Hassan Karaman put himself in such an like irreversible corner that I think his reputation is permanently fucked. In which Hassan Karaman refused to reveal who was publishing the game, who was funding the game, and said that so far this game was several support studios, including support studios who have worked on games like The Last of Us Part Two and Noir and these other things. Apparently, all of this has been done to the tune of $30,000
Hmm.
in budget,
Now
which
I'm not big knowledge man
yeah.
on game budgets, but that sounds a little low for my tastes.
That is fucking staggeringly low. That should be at least like a high six-figure number. And Hassan Karaman also erroneously claimed, well, let's say he claims, it might not be erroneous, that the people saw that Hassan Karaman was online on PlayStation playing a game called like Pyramid Head or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hassan Karaman's explanation here is that he made himself a Silent Hill fan game for his nephew's birthday and then uploaded it to his debugged PS5 so that his cousin could play the game. That is his explanation for how that game exists, what it is, and why he plays it. Um,
Fantastic.
so I have to say, Tucker, that I have a hard time believing anything Hassan Karaman has to say. And I guess my one question for you before we get out of this segment
For
is,
me,
what is this, what do you think Abandon is at this point in time? Because my new theory is not that it's a Kojima project, but that it is literally just absolutely nothing.
I mean that's as far as I can take my brain, like
Yeah,
logically. Is this has gone 18,000 ways from Sunday wrong,
yeah,
and the fact that no one's really doing any like PR support for this. Like no, there's no repair. There's no one coming out saying sorry we did this. Like
yeah.
maybe a text drop on what's his fucking team's name? What's the
Blue
studio
Box
on Blue
Game
Box's
Studios.
on their Instagram or like fucking their Twitter page. Like that's what we've gotten in the last 6 months or so, and I think unless within I guess the next year or so, we get like a full revamp of this. I think it's just gonna
Yeah,
peter out. Like it has dropped so quickly that I don't see there being like any like reasonable build back up unless Sony comes out and is like, hey, this was a thing because we wanted it to be super cool and secret, which is possible, I guess. But it seems unlikely because they've never gone that route before.
yeah. It is still, there are still too many coincidences. There are still too many weird things. Like, how did they get these support teams on board?
Yeah,
But this is so messy that I
it
don't think
is
there's
fucking terrifying.
I don't think there's any possible way this could be an ARG any longer.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that it is, I really think that it is all a bunch of hokum.
Good, good.
All right. Next, Tucker, I'm like roughly going in order of importance here. So I'm gonna go Nintendo Switch Sports Overview trailer.
Oh, I
Um,
thought you meant decreasing importance.
No, because also the two things we talked about happened like literally fucking weeks ago.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, it's true.
actually almost probably months ago if that's state of play. But so Nintendo Switch Sports Overview trailer dropped a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna recap it because Tucker, our good friend here, has not
Oh, that's
seen
me.
it.
Yep.
And there were also the reason that is back in my head today is there were very positive previews that dropped today for Nintendo Switch Sports,
Oh, I didn't
saying
hear about that, but
saying that it is a blast and local multiplayer that does recapture that spirit of
Wii
Wii
Sports?
Sports, and it is very scalable for both casual play and more serious play.
Hmm.
Also,
Hmm.
now the thing that really got my goose is that in this overview trailer we see each of the sports. No new sports are announced; it's the ones we already know about. But what they talk about a lot of is like the connective tissue between the sports. And
Sure.
what I
Well,
mean is,
good.
yes, the fact that there are like there's a 12 tiered online ranking system for playing
Mm.
multiplayer for each of the sports, and there are extensive like customizations to unlock for your character, for your rackets, your gear when you're going into the various sports. Um, so what's heartening to me is that this doesn't just seem to be the sort of thing of, hey, here are five sports, playing with your friends, click online play, no matchmaking,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
mode types, just fucking get into it. But we learned about like this has been talked about before, but they talked again about like basically battle royale bowling where 64 players start playing and it goes down to the player who bowls the best in the end. Like there's a lot of clever extra stuff here, making this a really
yeah.
robust package and basically solidifying my day one purchase from not being, oh, it's a Nintendo thing, so I'm going to buy it anyway, to, oh, this is a game that's really compelling to me, not only for like the local multiplayer experience with Jean or my sister, but because I might just want to enjoy this myself too. And
Yeah.
that I think is what cinches this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I will have to see when it comes out, what the reviews
Yeah.
are like, how much I enjoy actually playing these games, because Wii Sports
Yes.
is not something I have a particularly large experience with. I mean, it was present in my
Believe
household
it or not.
and in the culture, the general culture of the 2000s, but it's not something I ever played by myself. I mean, I liked looking at the boxing and the bowling and the golf and the tennis and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but I've never cared for the gameplay particularly much, outside of the motion controls, which were obviously
Right.
the selling gimmick. But motion controls like that don't really excite me anymore. It was fun to do arms with motion controls for like 2 days, and then I just realized I preferred the button controls.
Yes.
And so I can't say that I'm actively excited for this game from a gameplay point of view, but from what it stands for in terms of a return to a Nintendo Sports format of
Yeah.
ostensibly a new IP for this Switch, because it's not Wii Sports or whatever, with new modern ideas laid on top of the Wii Sports format. This could be something really interesting for the library, and I'm certainly willing to give it a try all the game modes, see what the content is like from that point of view. But as it stands, what you told me, I guess I kind of expected in terms of
Yeah.
a modern release, but also maybe that's not fair because we've had multiple Mario sports games on Switch that have not really passed that bar. But from what you're telling me, this does seem relatively robust, and I'm glad that you're excited and interested in a more substantial way, because frankly, from the beginning, I always thought that you would be the one more excited about it. But from that announcement, from when we've talked about it a couple times since, you've been a little bit low on it. So
Yeah.
it's good to hear that this all this new news has been, oh hey, maybe this is a little bit more, and hopefully it stands up to the insane legacy that is Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. It's also important to note that they directly talk about Wii Sports in the overview trailer.
Hmm.
Like I think this is being considered as less of a new IP
Okay,
than
sure. No, I know.
we.
I
Yeah.
was mostly joking,
Yeah,
obviously.
no. But I even got the sense from that reveal trailer that, oh, maybe we are trying to distance ourselves a little bit. I mean, obviously it's connected to that, but it did seem like it almost seemed like, yeah, it's connected to Wii Sports, but don't talk about that. This is Switch
Sure.
Sports.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but no, now they're being very open about, yeah, this carries on the legacy of Wii Sports and everything. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, $40 price point, I think, is the other critical piece here.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But from what you were saying with the day one
yeah.
purchase is I'm engaged enough by this conceptually and in terms
Yes.
of its place in the library that I will still be getting a copy to play with you and
Yeah.
try out with my friends. So that was never really the question. But from
Sure.
what you've told me, yeah, sure. More interesting now.
Well, Tucker, I'm gonna slip one more thing under the radar here. This is, of course, the person on Twitter who claimed that their copy of Advance Wars
Oh yeah.
1+2 Reboot Camp unlocked, their preload unlocked, and they were able to play the game. Now, here's what's interesting about this: they provided video and screenshot proof that this is
Mhm.
actually happening.
Yeah.
But then they also put out a tweet saying that Nintendo contacted them and refunded their purchase.
Hmm.
So there's this like kind of weird component to me here of what really is the validity of what this person is saying, right?
Yeah.
How verifiable is this? Is there a degree of like these are fake screenshots? I don't know exactly what the situation is here, but I think either way, it's obvious that the game is content complete and ready to roll.
Yeah.
My question for you, Tucker, is how long do you think is appropriate to wait until this game is released? And I'm going to do it while you formulate an answer on the spot. I am going to do a quick bit of Googling.
So this is interesting for a couple reasons, because I think the delay came at the right time in terms of
Yes.
when the world was reacting to the crisis in Ukraine, and war was kind of
Yes.
I mean, obviously it continues still to be a touchy subject in terms
Yeah.
of releases and content. I do think that what did you use, comfortable how long the delay until it's
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
comfortable to be released. Um, I don't think that it can be released
Yes.
within the next month or two because I think they'll want to revamp the marketing push for this game. I mean, it hasn't been a huge marketing push, but maybe once it comes back into the ether and they give us a release date, I think they'll probably want to give a couple months padding to say get people excited for it. But I think I would say just from a comfortability point of view, I and this is just coming from me, middle of the United States, not particularly tuned to the news. I've not been hearing as much about the Ukraine crisis in the last few weeks as I certainly was for the first few weeks that was happening.
Yeah.
And of course, that doesn't mean that it's not an issue anymore, but in terms of press blowback, I don't necessarily think they would get that much anymore. Not that they necessarily would have if it had
Yeah.
released, but I would say they could release it now, and I don't think it would be a problem. But they won't because I think they need a little bit of marketing padding on the front of it.
So what I was waiting to look up is, of course, Advanced Wars 1 was also delayed because of 9/11. The game
Yeah.
came out in North America on September 10th, 2001.
Okay. Or
And
it
then
would have come out then.
no, it did,
Oh.
because
Oh.
9/11 happened the day after 9/10.
Oh, that's a
So
great point. They couldn't have
yes,
predicted it. Yeah, naturally.
the game was already out, and then it was subsequently delayed. It released in Europe here on January 11th,
Gotcha.
2002, and then several years later in Japan. It didn't come out, and it didn't actually come out until it was repackaged with 2 in 2004. Um, I disagree that they wouldn't get shit.
Okay. Sure.
Because especially now we're in an environment where I think that games journalism is a lot more like socially politically minded, especially on sites like Polygon and Kotaku, which is really neither here nor there. It's just kind of the way things are. What I think the difference is that I think that the blowback wouldn't matter in a material sense.
Yeah.
I think it's more the sort of optical situation of why take this PR hit when we don't need to.
Sure.
And so obviously there's still a situation in Ukraine. Fuck Russia and the invasion going on over there. It's probably not going to end anytime soon, unfortunately. Not that I'm anything near a foreign policy expert, but I'm not under the impression that war is just kind of wrap up in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I have to wonder how long that delay is going to be. I really think this game ends up launching like late summer. Late summer, maybe like an August spot, the down period towards the end of the year. Maybe you get Splatoon in June, you get Splatoon in July, and then you slot in Advanced Wars.
Oh, that's right. We still don't know when Splatoon is coming out.
Right.
Oh, joy.
But I also don't think it's impossible, Tucker, that we just wake up and there's a tweet from Nintendo of America that says Advanced Wars is out in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think that's also possible. I mean, my claims earlier were more just my gut feeling of if I'm hypothetically predicting into Nintendo's mind, I guess I would, if I were them, I would want some time to revamp the marketing push, but also that hasn't stopped them from doing really weird marketing pushes and time releases for even bigger games, for significantly bigger games. So the thing is, this is not a very big deal in terms of when this game releases. The people who are going to buy it are going to buy it. It's not going to sell very well. It's going to just enter the Switch's library and exist there. It's not gonna blow up. So maybe you're right. Maybe that does factor into it a little more than I was thinking.
Yeah, so we'll see. I will clarify, by the way, we love our Russian fans. We don't like Vladimir Putin. That's who I mean when I say fuck Russia. Let's talk about very briefly Tomb Raider 4.
Okay.
Now fuck it. We're gonna save that. We're gonna hit a trio of 4s after the Max Payne remakes.
Yeah, because this is the Ides of 4s.
Ides of 4s, yes. And 2 Advance Wars remakes and 2 Max Payne remakes add up to 4.
That's a great point.
So Remedy basically out of nowhere announced that in collaboration with Rockstar Games, they are remaking Max Payne 1 and Max Payne 2 in the Northlight engine, which I believe is the Control engine.
Sure.
So these are full from the fucking ground up remakes. This is not a GTA trilogy, the collection, the definitive edition, the series release.
Yeah.
Weird timing, I think, because it was just I literally like the middle of the afternoon EST. There's like a press release put out with no information and just the knowledge that these games are coming, but they're not coming for a while.
Yeah.
So I've always been super interested in Max Payne. I bought the Foist one on Xbox, and I think I'll probably now. I mean, actually, I don't think I have any rush because I don't think these games are coming for a while.
Yeah.
But I do have great interest in the series, so I would like to go through that trilogy before these remakes come out.
Yeah, I can't say I have any specific interest in Max Payne. When you said the Max Payne games being made by the Varney people associated with Rockstar, I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense. They made Max Payne. But actually, I don't know if that's true. I don't know who made Max Payne. But
They
I was
did,
thinking of Alan Wake.
yeah,
Because those two games are the exact same. They are just white guy named games, and they're
yeah,
the exact same on mine, which is of course not true. But I have no experience with either franchise, especially not
yeah.
Max Payne. I guess I have tangential experience with Alan Wake because it's related to Control in some fucking tangential way. But I hope that these games are interesting. I hope they're cool. But you're right, and I think this is going to be sort of a cycle that we get into talking these next few news points.
Yeah.
Is I'm I guess I'm not a huge fan of just the like breathing an announcement out on into the internet and be like,
Yes.
oh, that's happening. Oh, okay. But no fanfare, no details, no timetable, no information is it's a little bit frustrating to me. Not because I care that much about Max Payne, but because I think Remedy could do with a big announcement and exciting people up and getting people re-involved in their future of their franchise and stuff like that.
You know what my reaction to this completely nothing announcement was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, that happened.
Uh, all I'll say is I don't think Remedy needs to announce any more games.
Sure. Yeah.
Alan Wake 2, two Max Payne remakes, two other games in the Control universe that are not the Control sequels. So they've got like they're fucking juggling games. Hopefully
Yeah.
they can stick the landing on those, and because they really didn't with those Crossfire campaigns, which are apparently dog shit, which is too bad. Next, now we're into the Ides of Fours. We've got three fours to talk about. I would say the
Three-fourths compromise is what they called it.
let's talk about Tomb Raider 4. Tomb Raider 4, and by Tomb Raider 4, I mean like Tomb Raider 48, because there's a million of these games. But we're
Yeah.
talking, of course, about the remakes from Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. After being saddled to the fucking exploding rocket that was Avengers, Crystal Dynamics is back in their own wheelhouse making a new Tomb Raider game. Of course, Tomb Raider 3, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, was made by Eidos Montreal instead of Crystal Dynamics. I thought the game was still great. I had a ton of fun. That was probably, I think that was up until that point the biggest game I ever got early. I reviewed it at a gaming trend. I was like, oh, this is fucking cool.
Yeah.
And the game was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I think these Tomb Raider games are fine. I think this one, Tucker, is going to really benefit from the fact that there are no Uncharted games around them.
Ooh, interesting. Sure.
The reason that I didn't really fuck with Rise of Tomb Raider that much, even though it's a good game, is on PlayStation 4, because remember it was an Xbox exclusive for a while. When it came to PlayStation 4, it came out within weeks of Uncharted 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, this is just not going to fly.
Yeah.
But wide open spaces here, no Uncharted in sight. I think a Tomb Raider 4 could really be awesome.
I mean, yeah, I certainly have high hopes for it. I do think that poor Crystal Dynamics. You're right. They got settled to the exploding bomb of Avengers, but obviously through that campaign, and you could tell they wanted to just make a Tomb Raider styles Avengers game, and some of the campaign was okay. And obviously they're a talented studio, and I do think that giving them back their own creative reins will be important, and it'll be interesting to see how they take the learnings from something like Avengers and a revamped game release landscape that is missing in Uncharted, and try to, I think, maybe have this game have a stronger identity and push behind it that isn't, hey, this is another Tomb Raider game out of a bazillion Tomb Raider games, but this is actually a big deal. And of course, they've always been big deals, but I think saddling this one with a fresh perspective on creativity, because they no longer have fucking Marvel and all those big wigs breathing down their necks. Hopefully, they're very excited about this, and it shows with maybe this being something a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I think they've got to, because there's been so much time in this, and we closed off a trilogy. It's a great opportunity to have a little bit of a soft reboot on your hard reboot series.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's on Unreal 5, so we'll at least get to watch Lara Croft die like uncomfortably viscerally like we did in those reboot games, but in even higher fidelity.
Yeah.
That was always the weirdest part of those games. Did you ever see those death animations for Lara Croft? Are fucking ridiculous.
I mean, so I played Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
2014, 13?
13.
13? Oh, jeez, I don't even know.
But then it got re-released on PlayStation 4, so if you played it there,
Okay,
it might
well,
have
I
been PlayStation.
didn't. So, uh, I played the first Tomb Raider reboot. I thought it was a
Yeah,
good game. I don't really remember anything about it.
yeah,
But I'd be interested in trying some of these other games, though they're very low on the back burner. And there
yes,
was something else I was gonna say. Oh, is that this is kind of in the same vein as those Max Payne games. Is they just announced that this was their next project, and it's just like, damn, like getting even just a CGI trailer and revealing the Tomb Raider logo and revealing that it's Lara Croft and that they're actually continuing this reboot franchise that had ended a trilogy. This could have been a big news at a State of Play
yeah.
or an Xbox's E3 or something like that. Or I guess Square Enix's E3. Which is not happening. Never mind. E3 is not happening. But if Square Enix had their own presentation, they ended it with the announcement that the fourth Tomb Raider game is being worked on. Crystal is back in their roots. Could have been a big deal. They just kneecapped their own potential hype here.
Yeah, I don't know. Important to note, by the way, that actually also like Remedy, they are working on another bizarre project. Crystal Dynamics, of course, the support studio on the quadruple A
Oh yeah,
production that is Perfect Dark,
yeah.
which is apparently going to shit over at the initiative. So, oh well.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, you froze. You back. Speaking of freezing, Tucker, let's head over to the snow because we have one more vague game announcement to discuss, and this one is only a snowy picture of a of a wolf's head in the snow. It's almost like it's an amulet worn by Geralt of Rivia. Of course, we're talking about Witcher 4 has been
Yep.
officially announced by CD Projekt Red. To rancorous applause and literally no information to the point where one of the people working on the game said we are not ready to discuss plot, characters, or mechanics at this stage. So
Yeah, this is another interesting one. I actually think it follows quite in line with what had happened is happening with Tomb Raider 4 is
yes,
both CD Projekt Red and Crystal Dynamics are in the exact same position. Their last
yes,
game was universally a shit show from whatever PR metric you can possibly throw at it.
sure.
And they had the chance to return to something that makes them get a lot of their critical acclaim back. And I'm sure both these games will be great. But the fact that we didn't get a Witcher 4 reveal at some sort of press conference is really peculiar because I do think that CD Projekt Red needs any of the goodwill that they can get, and this would have been that. But a logo is not that, and of course, frankly, it was expected. I didn't think that they were going to stop making Witcher games. Maybe they were going to move on to something else, but I do think that maybe this is a course correction in terms of we tried something different. It worked for some people. It didn't work for a lot of people. Let's go back to our roots. And Witcher 4 is here, but having it just be a logo reveal is does nothing for me. Obviously, I'm not a Witcher fan,
Yeah.
so I'm not that interested in this regardless. But Witcher 4 is a big deal. But it's not that big a deal when you're like, hey, Witcher 4 is a thing that will exist in the future.
Yeah, I mean, The Witcher is the sort of game that doesn't need to be a showcase to matter.
Sure.
But also like it's kind of obvious that you're making another Witcher game.
Yeah.
So when you're going to announce it, you should show something with it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like Metroid Prime 4 always stands out as the outlier because like we had no reason to expect the Metroid Prime 4 was being made.
Yeah.
So just seeing the logo for Metroid Prime 4 is very different than seeing the logo for Witcher 4.
Yeah.
Wherein obviously
which is very similar to Elder Scrolls 6.
Yes.
Hey, you guys know that Elder Scrolls 6 is a thing 3 years ago, and that game is probably not coming out for another 3 years?
I think it's been longer than that. I genuinely think that we're maybe 5 years away from Elder Scrolls 6 right now.
Jesus Christ. But I do think that thinking about this from a different perspective of how things get announced, how things are hyped, and which games deserve that kind of reveal or not, even if it is just a logo. I do think that companies need to recognize the reverence that franchises have and give them a good first impression. My first impression of The Witcher 4 isn't that, holy shit, they're making another Witcher game. Oh, that was a cool trailer, and oh, I can't wait to see what they do next. Is, yeah, of course they're making another Witcher game. We'll hear about it eventually. But, imagine if, of course, we know that GTA 6 is in the works, but imagine the first thing that we ever hear officially about GTA 6 is the logo for it. Instead of a cool trailer with a big open world and all this nonsense. But, come on.
See, it's fucking crazy. You see, but it's crazy you say that, Tucker, because Rockstar has said we are making Grand Theft Auto 6, and that was their announcement of the game. They didn't even
Sure.
give the logo.
I
It
guess
was
that,
just,
yeah.
yeah, it was like a post on the website being like, yeah, we are making GTA 6.
Okay, so maybe this was a bad example,
No,
but
no, but it's actually to your point because you didn't even know that happened. You
I
know what
just
I mean?
assumed that. I mean,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it became background knowledge, which is a little bit
Yes.
unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I think you're completely right because there should have been a trailer for
Yeah.
GTA 6 and there should have been a trailer for Witcher 4.
Well, they're still
So
getting the next gen versions of GTA 5 ready.
yeah, go get your subscription to GTA Plus.
Jesus Christ.
Get your Monopoly money every month. One last one to talk about, perhaps the biggest thing of the day, arguably, and that is Kingdom Hearts 4 has been officially revealed by Square Enix alongside two mobile games we don't give a shit about. We're not going to talk about. Um, but Kingdom Hearts 4 been revealed. Actually, has a trailer.
Actually got a trailer. My complaints about the last three things
Yeah.
do not apply here at all.
However, if the general sentiment is that these other games were announced too early, that certainly is going to apply to Kingdom Hearts 4. Because the only concrete piece of development information we have is that the game was running on Unreal Engine 4, and they decided, what if we just put it all in Unreal Engine 5 instead?
Yep.
So that signals to me that the game is a long ways away, especially because Tetsuya Nomura is like working on 9 other games.
Jesus
So
Christ.
whatever.
I feel bad for that guy.
Yeah, he gets screwed constantly. But Kingdom Hearts 4, we see a hyper real Sora walking around, bebopping and scatting around Tokyo. And we also see him in a forest. And that forest allegedly has in the top right corner of the frame the foot of an ATST walker, of course, signifying this might be Endor. Tucker, what thoughts, if any, do you have on Kingdom Hearts 4?
Uh, my thoughts on this are that I'm not a Kingdom Hearts fan.
Yeah.
My experience with the series is very limited. The announcement of Sora in Smash is probably the most I've ever engaged with Kingdom Hearts tangential content. But I was around for the Kingdom Hearts 3 reveal and hype cycle and all
Yes.
that, and how much that game was. I can't believe this is happening. This is a dream game. Kingdom Hearts 3 is one of the most anticipated games of all time. Yada, yada, yada. Game releases, I don't really remember much of the acclaim. I mean, I guess it was kind of mixed, but praised by fans, whatever. But for this game, I think it is peculiar that they are getting it out this early, because you're right in terms of the game being super far away, presumably. I mean, 3 didn't come out
Yeah.
that long ago. And the gap between 2 and 3...
2019. Yeah, so not that long ago.
Yeah, but the gap
Yeah.
between 2 and 3, astronomical. And so, will we see any more of this game for years? I don't know. And I think that's the thing that gives me any pause on this. But if they do have this under a stronger consideration, it's possible that until this game comes out in 4 years, we get trailers for it. We get reveals. And maybe this is one of the most consistent, like, long hype cycles we've ever seen. But also, it's possible we don't hear about it for another 3 years. So it's a little bit peculiar.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is like Kingdom Hearts 3, yeah, it took a long time to follow up Kingdom Hearts 2,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but also there was no shortage of Kingdom Hearts content in the meantime,
True.
you know.
And there's not
The,
now.
no, but comparatively
A
there
chain of
kind of
memories, you know?
but that's interesting you say that because there kind of is because how many spin-offs were there on GBA and then
Yeah,
on
sure.
DS and PSP and
Yeah.
3DS and then remakes of those and then everything. Like there was constantly
All
Kingdom
the
Hearts content.
collections. Yeah.
So even though there was not that next numbered entry, there were Kingdom Hearts games.
Mm-hmm.
Other than Melody of Memory, there is no
Did I
Kingdom
get that
Hearts.
wrong? What's Chains of
Chain of
Olympus?
Memories, Chains of Memories is the GBA and PS2 one
Okay, and
with
then
the card battle
the other
system.
one's Melody Memories, you're saying? I
Yes.
wouldn't know.
Um, but other than that, there is nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's impossible that they thought to themselves, well, what are we even really going to release in a non-numbered Kingdom Hearts game on Switch?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure, but why?
Yeah.
Why not just make it on Unreal 5 and put it on PS5, Xbox Series X, maybe get it on last gen? Like that just seems like the smarter proposition now instead
Yeah.
of spending like a fucking decade making Recoded and 358 days over
Yeah.
2 and all this stuff. Just cut right to 4. So it's
Yeah.
I think it's possible that the game is not a decade away, but
That's
I
a
think
great point.
but Square Enix also literally is releasing like a fucking million games a year, and I don't think this is anywhere near release. But
Of course not.
I don't think it's anywhere near as far from release
No,
as three was.
that's a great point. That's a great point. I mean, I didn't really think of it from that angle because guess what? The only Kingdom Hearts games I'm aware of are the mainline ones because frankly, that's all anyone talks about if they're not a fan of Kingdom Hearts or not a hardcore fan of Kingdom Hearts playing all this horse shit that comes out. So
Yeah,
in my mind, oh, the release cycle of the Kingdom Hearts franchise, the number ones, which are the only ones I know about slash care about, are 12 years between the fucking games. And
yeah,
maybe that's just not true. And frankly, that could be interesting. And it'll be interesting to see what this game's hype cycle is because hypothetically, presumably from with the information that we've been given, this could be a very big deal incorporating Disney's acquired properties like Star Wars, and more modern Disney titles, some more modern Pixar stuff. The of course stretches. Are they going to tackle Marvel in this as well? And all bets are off the table. I mean, frankly, and I do think that would be for me, something that would get me more interested. I mean, I'm a fan of Ratatouille and Toy Story, but seeing the Sora in those worlds didn't get me particularly hyped because they focused more on Pirates of the Caribbean and Frozen, which are things I'm not fans of. But if they're showing Sora cross into franchises that I care about on a more personal level, and they're showing Star Wars scenes recreated, giving them a Kingdom Hearts flair, they're showing how fucking all these Roxas and Sora and Riku are interacting with the Marvel universe, that gets me excited. I want to react to those
yeah.
trailers. I want to see what kind of information they're giving for that. But also that is hypothetical. Every time Kingdom Hearts comes out, it's gonna be a big deal. But this one could be a wider deal in terms of reaching its
Yeah.
tendrils into more popular franchises now.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, just the aesthetic of the trailer signals to me that this is going to focus on live action Disney stuff,
Sure. Oh, okay.
and I almost feel like the Pirates of the Caribbean world, which was very cool in Kingdom Hearts 3, was almost like a
Test.
yeah, like that. It's actually very impressive because when I did play Kingdom Hearts 3, I have a very weird like history with Kingdom Hearts, but of the time I did play Kingdom Hearts 3, I thought that world was very cool, but it felt weird because of the context of
Sure.
the game it's in. But if the whole game is basically looks like a
Hmm.
Nomura modern Final Fantasy game, as this does,
Hmm.
my roommate has been telling me the way that this very clearly pulls from Versus 13, which then became Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, of course.
I don't think it's impossible that this is Marvel and Star Wars and live action Disney properties.
National treasure.
I don't think it's impossible. The other one I think about is like Tron. I think is an easy one to
Oh,
do.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Sky High,
I I don't know.
Lemonade Mouth,
Luck
Camp
of the
Rock
Irish.
2,
Oh, now you see it.
Minutemen.
Now you see it. Including star Pat Hazel. My dad is in a Disney Channel original film.
Is he in the Princess Protection Program?
I don't think so.
Is he in Freaky Friday?
No, actually, that one's a big deal.
Is he in the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody movie? How
Not
about
that
the
I'm
Hannah
aware of.
Montana movie?
Oh, he is Hannah Montana.
How about is there anything else that's on off your dome?
My dome's pretty empty most of the time.
Yeah. See, that's always my fear coming to record with you.
That my dome's a little too empty for you,
Yes.
for your tastes.
Yeah. Because I have to fill it up.
We call that you giving me dome.
Yep.